Hello everyone, my name is Blake and this is Walk the Parks. Today we are in Grand Canyon National Park and we are going to go on a hike to Shoshone Point. So this is an amazing hike in Grand Canyon National Park, and the biggest thing about it is that the trailhead parking lot is not signed. So if you are thinking about doing this hike, I would strongly encourage you to either look at a map, or at the end of this video I actually have driving like the full drive from the south rim entrance all the way to the parking lot. This hike is awesome because it is fairly easy. You can see it's pretty flat. You're kind of following a dirt road along the rim through pretty much the entire hike up until you get to Shoshone Point itself. And it's about 2 miles long, so it's about 1 mile each way, maybe a little tiny bit longer. So today we're going to actually do the entire hike. So I'll have some commentary. I would encourage you, if you're on a treadmill or something, and just want something to watch while you walk or jog, then you can definitely mute me. Otherwise, I'll kind of be going through some things about the Grand Canyon, and I will have commentary throughout the video. This video does take us all the way to the point and all the way back. And then, like I said, at the end, we also have the instructions for how to get there in your vehicle, and not just directions, but I'll actually show it to you. So thank you for joining me here today on Walk the Parks. Again, my name is Blake. I have been super lucky to hike 20,000 miles. I'm more than that now, including one time I actually walked from Yellowstone National Park to Grand Canyon National Park and connected all 13 national parks in Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, into Nevada, and then I went and did a crazy route into the Grand Canyon, but ended there. And if I'm being completely honest, the Grand Canyon is my favorite place in the whole world. Like, a lot of times people are like, well, what's your favorite park? Like, I did that walk, but that was a part of a bigger walk that I called Walk the Parks as well, it's similar to this channel. It's also called Walk the Parks. But I visited all of the 51 of the national parks in the lower 48 on that trip. And sometimes, people ask, what was your favorite? And while there are an incredible amount of astounding national parks, and I feel super lucky to have visited so many beautiful places in the US as well as around the world, the Grand Canyon somehow sticks out as my favorite. So I just absolutely love it here. I love the rim. I love the corridor trails, kind of the main trails going down into the canyon. I love really everything about it. I love going backpacking kind of deep into the park. There's so many beautiful, amazing ways to experience the Grand Canyon. I mean, you can go rafting. I've done that once. That was incredible. There's just so many cool things to do in the Grand Canyon. So one of them would be Shoshone Point. This is a little bit off the beaten path. As I said, there is no sign for the trailhead. I think that's for really a number of reasons. The trailhead trailhead parking lot is pretty small. You can kind of see it at the end when you drive in. So, I mean, there's room for probably 20 cars, if not more, if you're careful about it, but it could easily overflow. And then the interesting thing about Shoshone Point is that, and again, this is off of Desert View. It's really, and for a general idea of where it is, it's really a couple miles from the turnoff. So you kind of, from the turnoff from the south rim entrance, you go straight from the entrance, take a right on Desert View Drive, you pass the South Kaibab Trailhead and Yaqui Point, and it's maybe a mile, if not less. Now I'm doubting myself. Maybe it's a little more. But on the left-hand side, you can kind of see a pullout. But as I was saying, the cool thing about Shoshone Point, it's one of the only areas within the park that can be reserved for private events and gatherings. Now, we'll see as we get closer to the point. It's pretty cool. There's a bunch of garbage receptacles as well as some, kind of pit toilets, and a ton of picnic tables, and there's even like a fire pit and like a big covered area. So this would be a really cool place to have an event. And I think that's another reason that they don't have a sign here pointing out the Shoshone Point Trail, because for people who do rent out the space, it'd be kind of terrible to show up to your event and have the entire parking lot filled up. So something to consider. I really like this trail because it's just kind of a mellow walk along the path. Enjoy the trees. Now, a few things to comment about the Grand Canyon. Well, there's lots of things to comment about the Grand Canyon, but the first thing we'll just go into a little bit of safety. I would be kind of cautious to do this in summer months, particularly if there are storms kind of brewing. Much more likely to get struck by lightning on the rim than in the canyon. Nowhere is really safe, but lightning really likes taller places, and the rim is pretty flat. So, you're on a plateau. So just be cautious of that. If there's a storm, I wouldn't necessarily go out here because it might just have a, scary experience. You probably won't get struck by lightning, but it might be kind of scary if it's striking near you. So kind of consider that. And something else to always kind of consider in the Grand Canyon is, what am I trying to say? The one thing to consider is, the heat. Of course, how could I forget that? But the heat can be horribly bad in the Grand Canyon, and heat kind of tends to be one of those kind of equalizing factors. So even if you're fit and maybe more confident, you should always kind of respect the heat tremendously at the Grand Canyon. Now, some people think like, people are overboard because there's definitely a big group and a big push to warn people in the Grand Canyon about the heat. But the thing is like I said, it is kind of a great equalizer. You never know who's going to be the person that kind of sadly succumbs to the heat. This hike is not as bad because it is flat and it's on the rim. You might still deal with like altitude issues. This is still pretty high. If you're from a lower elevation place, this still could be quite challenging for you, but nowhere near as challenging as going down into the inner canyon. And of course, most hikes, unless you're rafting, most hikes start at the rim. So you're going down first, which is a little bit easier. And then you're turning around and going up. So the hardest part of your hike is always all the way at the end. And that is really not that much fun. You definitely see a lot of people who are so excited about the Grand Canyon, and it's awesome. And like I said, it's my favorite place too, so I get that. But you definitely want to respect that heat when you turn around and just start climbing out. I mean, it could be the hardest hike of your life. So not only just because of the Grand Canyon, because it's so steep. I mean, there's some places. I think the biggest drop from the rim to the river is 6,000 feet, but it's not uncommon for it to be 5,000 feet, if not more. So, and that is insane. Like, even if you live somewhere, like I'm super lucky to live in Colorado, but a 5,000 foot elevation gain is even rare here. Like from the start of a hike, like the bottom or the trailhead to the summit, even of most 14ers, is less than 5,000 feet. So the Grand Canyon is more hardcore, more vertical than pretty much anywhere. So kind of keep that in mind and respect the heat at the Grand Canyon. Definitely something to consider. I would give yourself at least an hour for this. 2 miles round trip, if you're really pushing, you could probably do it in like 45 minutes, but who wants to really push? It's a Grand Canyon. There's no rush. Just hang out and enjoy it. Also, you'll probably definitely want to spend a little bit of time at the viewpoints themselves. These viewpoints are absolutely spectacular, as you'll see here. So yeah. Let you enjoy some solitude, and I'll take a break from speaking. So note that I do actually, for all these videos, I mute the sound of the original video, and the reason for that is, there's a couple reasons, but the main reason is that nobody really wants to listen to me breathing hard, even on a hike like this. It's just kind of like I just breathe so hard on every hike, really. So nobody wants to listen to that. So I do kind of just dub over them, so that or eliminate that audio so that you don't have to deal with it. So let's see, what else can we talk about? We're going through a ponderosa forest, but then it eventually does transition to like a pinyon juniper, kind of deserty, and that's kind of the main, for the south rim, that's kind of the main environments that you're dealing with. Like right here, you have all these ponderosa pines, and then in a lot of other areas that are a little bit more deserty, you kind of have that pinyon juniper. So right now, I believe this whole area is part of the biggest ponderosa pine forest in the world, like going down towards Flagstaff. And it's pretty cool. I like the forest here because for the most part, it's pretty spread out, and you just kind of have a bunch of ponderosa pines. Like I said, and then other areas you kind of have that pinyon juniper desert plateau action going on. And it's pretty cool that this area, you can rent out. So people have birthday parties out here, weddings. Pretty nice. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some different things about the Grand Canyon. First, we'll talk about the animals at the Grand Canyon. And so we'll talk about the exciting ones first. So, first off is mountain lions. There are definitely mountain lions at the Grand Canyon, and I went to a talk about mountain lions quite a few years ago, and the ranger was, gosh, she had done so much research on mountain lions. It was really a fascinating ranger talk. So one of the things that they showed was kind of the radio collar information. So they had caught some mountain lions and put some radio transmitting, or I don't know if they're GPS. Anyway, those tracking collars that they put on animals, they put some on some mountain lions, and it was really interesting. Like if you look at a big map of the Grand Canyon, the some mountain lions kind of went back and forth, and they're pretty much from, toward the rim, and it was like really close to the rim actually, from all the way to Desert View, which is like one side of Desert View Drive, all the way to South Rim Village and back. So they would kind of pace back and forth in that region, which I found very interesting. So I mean, it's definitely possible to see a mountain lion, although it's very rare. I think I saw one mountain lion once at the Grand Canyon, but it was quite far away. So we'll call it zero. We'll say I never saw a mountain lion. I thought I might have. I looked at it and I was kind of like, what is that over there? Is that a mountain lion? But never really got confirmation. I actually left. I stared at it for like a couple minutes and then was like, I'm good. I really don't want to interact with a mountain lion. And I think, to be honest, that's the best way to interact with most animals. Because there's no hunting allowed in national parks, some animals do tend to kind of get, much more friendly than you'd think. Like some of the deer and some of the elk will get really close to people, not just in the Grand Canyon, but a lot of other places. Just encourage you like to stay away, kind of give them their space. It's a lot healthier for animals to have a fear of humans. I mean, we don't want to make them afraid, but at the same time, if they exit the park, it is possible for them to be hunted, and we just kind of want to give animals space. And that brings up, like, what's the most dangerous animal in the Grand Canyon? Who knows? Wait for it. The squirrel is the most dangerous animal. So there's a lot of big squirrels that are trying to get food in the Grand Canyon, and that is something that you should really be careful. Sure, I get it. It's cute. It's funny to get a picture of yourself with a deer kind of nibbling some food out of your hand or whatever. But I would really strongly recommend against that. I mean, I know it is, illegal technically, and also you don't want to get bit. I mean, that's possible. They carry all sorts of diseases. And like I said, there are definitely more incidents than any other animal with the squirrel. So please don't feed the squirrels. It's annoying. It's also really annoying. Like, I've been super lucky to go backpacking a ton of times, and man, it is the worst when animals get into your food and stuff like that. Or let's see, there's one of the ski resorts around here. There's people love to take a picture of like a bird in their hand because you can hold some food and the bird will just like in your hand and the bird will come down, and people love getting the picture of like the bird. But oh my gosh, if you ever go to those areas and just want to like hang out and eat some food, you have like birds like dive bombing you, which is super annoying. So I get it, you want the cool shot, but it can also be super annoying. So just kind of keep that in mind. So some other animals besides, one more thing about mountain lions. There's actually the largest mountain lions some of the largest in the world they've found here. I believe in the North Rim they've found mountain lions that weigh like 210 pounds, if not more. They were saying that the mountain lions eat more elk. Oh, here we are coming up to a viewpoint. So here, I'll be quiet while we enjoy this. Look how beautiful. All right, so we're not at the main attraction yet, but that was just a little side viewpoint. I kind of spotted a little trail off to the side, so I thought I would take it. And now we're back on the road and back towards Shoshone Point, and we're getting kind of close now. But so anyway, there are some of the largest mountain lions in the world are found in the Grand Canyon, which is kind of interesting. And they were saying that they eat more elk. Like most mountain lions, kind of feast on deer for the most part, but elk are quite a larger animal, and so for whatever reason, they eat a lot more elk. And what would that reason be? Um, Oh, and here there is a split here, but it really is just where the truck, like there's a truck that has to go and grab the garbage and clean the restroom out here. So it's just a turnaround for the truck. So you could really go either way and you won't get lost at that intersection there. But anyway, the why the mountain lions eat more elk, they think one of the reasons might be is that they're able to eat them more, kind of because they might have a bit of a terrain advantage, like because of the canyon and because of the cliffs. Like a smart mountain lion could maybe scare an elk off a cliff or something like that. So maybe they're able to actually hunt slightly more effectively here than other places, just due to the kind of crazy steep topography of the Grand Canyon. Like if you can convince an animal to jump off the edge, you might have a dinner. So as you can see here, there is a restroom here, nice pit toilet. Definitely would be a cool place to have an event. So you can see on the right here, there's a bunch of picnic tables, and you even have like a covered gazebo type deal. So that's really nice. And I'm not 100% sure on the cost or anything, but if you just look up Shoshone Point, also I debated what is the proper pronunciation. Is it Shoshone or Shoshone? I watched a couple videos and people seem to say Shoshone, so I don't really know. I've definitely heard other people say Shoshone too, so just keep that in mind. We're not sure. So look at all these beautiful picnic tables. You got a gazebo. Now we're going to go check out this other viewpoint over here. I'll be quiet while we enjoy that. All right, so now we're going to kind of we're really at Shoshone Point now. I would say this is the main area, but there is the actual point itself, and we're going to kind of go out there right now. So, speaking of the edge and mountain lions maybe scaring their prey off of it, definitely be super cautious anytime you're at the Grand Canyon. Obviously, not only of heat, but definitely be careful near the edge. You don't want to stumble off. I mean, in a lot of instances, there's no safety fence or guard of any sort. And not only is there no guard, but the drop is, in some instances, hundreds, if not like 1,000 feet. So be careful. It definitely happens. Sadly, I actually read something today about a 20-year-old individual who fell off near the South Rim. So that's really sad. My condolences to him and his family. But so definitely be careful. It does happen. And I think, as of this, I'm recording this recording this audio anyway, in August of 2024. And gosh, I think like 3 people have died hiking in the Grand Canyon over the past like month. So that's really sad. So you can see some people out here, and you can kind of choose your own adventure a bit. Obviously, if there is an established trail, you do want to try to stay on it. Um, and I actually kind of went like the trail kind of goes to the right here, but for whatever reason I went to the left. It's hard to tell where you are. Gosh, look at that beautiful view. All right, so I'm just going to be quiet for a couple minutes and just enjoy. This is the beautiful view that you'll experience if you do go to Shoshone Point. Just absolutely beautiful. And on the way back, we'll talk a little bit more about animals, and we'll talk about a little bit more just about the Grand Canyon in general. All right, and then just one thing I want to comment on here. I kind of did make a bit of a mistake. I left my backpack kind of by itself, and I did stay pretty close, but I definitely went like 50 feet away. And I would call that a mistake because the ravens here, speaking of animals, can be absolutely relentless. In this instance, nothing happened, but particularly in the campgrounds, and they know a lot of the places where people will take breaks or, at points like this. So if they're around, they will ransack your pack. I've seen them just like dig in and take somebody's like medication, or if there's any sort of like food, particularly in the campgrounds, they will just rummage through the stuff. Like if you are foolish enough to leave like something that they can get into at your camp, you'll come back and it'll just be a mess, and you'll probably get a ticket for it too. But just something to certainly be aware of on day hikes and backpacking in the Grand Canyon. All right, so now we're gonna head back, maybe with a couple more views. Oh, actually, I gotta grab my backpack first. You can see my shadow. I'm actually taking some video with my 360 camera as well. I haven't gotten around to editing that yet, but stay tuned. Hopefully, you'll be able to see some of that. It's really cool. You can kind of move around you can use the mouse to move around to see like 360 views, which is pretty fantastic at a place like this, obviously. And I love the Grand Canyon because it's just so vast. There's so many different things. Like, look at all the layers. There's so many different colors. Like, and up here, like, the rim perspective is so different than you go down below the rim and you're looking up at this stuff, or you're just in these amazing, like, little canyons that you'd never even imagine could exist. Like, there's all these beautiful oases. There's amazing waterfalls. There's even, like, an 800-foot waterfall in the Grand Canyon, if you could believe that. And there's other ones. There's several waterfalls that are enormous that are coming directly out of the rock. Like they're not coming from the rim. They're coming, or like just a stream at the bottom, but like they're coming out of a hole in the rock. Like there's caves. It's just absolutely spectacular. I'm just laughing because I just love the Grand Canyon. Even just watching this makes me so excited and want to go back. So again, as you can see, a lot of the edges here are, even what you're walking on is like fairly narrow. I would definitely be cautious if you do have children anywhere at the Grand Canyon. I would definitely be really careful. A lot of people criticize like those leashes for kids, but man, somewhere like the Grand Canyon, that might honestly be a good idea depending on the kid's age. Just because, I mean, look at that, just one step, especially too, like if you look in a lot of areas that's very like loose dirt and rock, so it's slipping is not very challenging to do. And also, as you can see, you're kind of I'm having to use my hand a little bit here and stuff like that. So again, kind of choose your own adventure. It's fantastic if you do go out all the way to the point, but if you're gonna stop like here or something too, there's nothing wrong with that. Do not be ashamed. So as you can notice, we're definitely in more of the pinyon juniper, desert environment versus those ponderosa pines, which are a little bit kind of further in. So we talked about how mountain lions might eat more elk at the Grand Canyon, but we didn't talk about elk themselves. So there are quite a few elk, and you'll see them like especially in the campground. And as I said, a lot of them are very friendly, not friendly, but like they will get very close. They just lack fear. Um, sometimes you get really lucky and get to see a little calf or a little baby elk, which is pretty cool. But I would definitely be cautious around them. But I would also be cautious, even though the elk aren't really afraid of humans, and they do, in a lot of instances, allow you to get very close to them. I would still exercise an extreme amount of caution. Like, sometimes you see people even they get really close. Cause I get it, you want a picture, or people think like, oh, it's so nice, maybe I could touch it. It's like, do not touch the elk. You might really, 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 really regret it. Um, and even though they seem so friendly, I mean, wild animals are unpredictable, so just be careful. There's also bighorn sheep. They really thrive here on the Grand Canyon, so that's another cool animal. And also the California condor, which is very cool and endangered. I believe it's the largest flying bird in, I don't know if it's the world, I think it's like North America at least. So pretty cool. They eat mainly carrion, which would be like dead animals. So it really can vary when you see them, where because they kind of go where the food is, as would anyone. So if you're hungry anyway, so they'll kind of go and see where an animal might have slipped and fell or died of natural causes or whatnot. So now we're gonna kind of just have another mellow hike back to the parking lot. Along again, this is a road. This is a wonderful hike. Really can't say enough good things about it. It's kind of nice that there's no sign for the trailhead, but even with that, this parking lot is pretty full, like quite a lot of times. Like I think as you see me pull in at the very end of this video when I'm driving, there's a decent amount of people in the parking lot, or maybe there's not, and there's like a big bus or something though. So something to consider. But there's also like other animals. There are snakes. Be careful. I believe there's 9 different species of rattlesnakes in the Grand Canyon. One of them is just in the Grand Canyon. Has this? It's like a pink rattlesnake. Absolutely beautiful. I have definitely run into rattlesnakes in the Grand Canyon as well. So they're not like it's unlikely, but you will see them. But don't be like too afraid of them. The nice thing about rattlesnakes is they tend to warn you quite a bit. They don't want anything to do with you. They don't want to bite you. Just watch your step a little bit and just be cautious. If you are thinking about coming to the Grand Canyon and you have the luxury of time, it's not like, oh, I have to go next week or something, consider not going in the summertime. I know a lot of people get time off in the summer, or the summertime just tends to be the quote unquote nicest time to travel in a lot of areas. I would really say that is not true in the Grand Canyon, or maybe even the greater Arizona, or a lot of the Southwest in general. It can just be so brutally hot, like not only from a safety perspective, but just from a fun perspective. Like it's just insanely hot, and it's just not as much fun because you just have to, oh man, just make sure to drink enough water and have enough salt. Salt is the thing a lot of people overlook because it's like, oh, you want to have a low sodium diet. First off, I would say diets are out the window at the Grand Canyon. You want to eat as many calories as you need, if not more than you think you need, because you're going to have, especially if you go down below the rim, or even on the rim, because the sun is just beating down on you. So just be careful. I mean, consider wearing like, sun hoodies are really popular now for hikes. That's what I wear almost always hiking. I think on this hike you can even see my hands. I wear gloves and stuff too. I mean, the sun is just relentless. If you're going to spend a ton of time outside the Grand Canyon, probably recommend covering up. As always, just a reminder about like leave no trace. Leave only pictures. Excuse me. Leave only footprints. Take only pictures. And try to just kind of leave things as they are. You don't really want to be gathering wood. I mean, it's really cool. There are all sorts of Native American artifacts. There were of the ancestral Puebloans lived all throughout this area. But if you do find like a pottery shard or a arrowhead or anything like that, it's cool if you pick it up and look at it, but it's probably the best idea is to just put it back. Don't take any of that stuff. Leave it where you found it. Let the next person kind of get a view of it and be able to check it out. All right, so now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Grand Canyon, how amazing it is. Obviously, it's considered one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It's about 277 miles in length. These statistics sometimes are kind of funny to me. It's like, how do you really know where the Grand Canyon ends or begins? And the answer is, I guess at the end of Lake Powell, Glen Canyon Dam. But still, I mean, is that really? I mean, that's just our arbitrary, decision points. The Grand Canyon is just absolutely fantastic. But anyway, it's about 277 miles in length, and it's up to 18 miles in width, and over a mile deep, which is incredible. And the Grand Canyon National Park itself was founded in 1919, or I guess established in 1919, and there's nearly 6 million people visit per year, which is kind of crazy. The most popular areas like the South Rim. Most people go there. It is a little bit easier access. The North Rim is beautiful, but the North Rim is really only open mid-May until like mid-October. They get a ton of snow up there. You wouldn't really believe it in some ways, but this whole area gets a lot of snow. You're at about 7,000 feet on the South Rim and about 8,000 feet on the North Rim, or even higher. So an 8,000 feet is pretty dang high any way you look at it. I do really like the North Rim and would encourage you to check it out if you have the time and you're there during that time period, but it's a little bit more remote for sure. And the South Rim has more services and stuff like that. So take that into account. It's kind of amazing to think 6 million people make it out here. It's a pretty remote place. I mean, yeah, Flagstaff is like an hour and a half away, which is like but even then, it's kind of a small city. I guess a medium-sized city, depending on how you look at it. But even then, they don't really have a major airport. You have Phoenix, like 2.5 hours beyond that, or a lot of people will come from Vegas, but quite a remote area. And then a lot of things. If you're looking for a little bit more adventure, I might recommend like a good place to start. Well, first, the thing I'd say is that a lot of people at the Grand Canyon tend to kind of overdo it. It's like, oh, I'm only there for a day. I gotta go down to the river and back. And as I said, man, the heat is just terrible, and just the hike is so hard. So like, I would really encourage you. First off, I think we kind of have a culture of like go, 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 particularly in like road trips and the stuff in the Southwest. There's so much to see and people want to see it all, and I get that. But I would just recommend kind of try to have a little bit slower overall. Like a lot of people I talk to that go on big road trips, their biggest regret is really that they are just driving too much. Like, just stay somewhere and enjoy it. And at the Grand Canyon, it's like maybe if you have these ambitious ideas for a hike, maybe cut it in half and do that like on your first or second day there and see how that feels. And then based on that, then maybe kind of build up rather than just going for it all at once. I mean, people are like, oh, I got to go like rim to the river. And it's like, oh man, it is spectacular, but it can just be like not that much fun. Like at the end of the day, like even if it's like you got to do it or whatever, it's just not that much fun. So just keep that in mind. Um, Obviously everybody is at a different ability level. So some people are, elite athletes, but there's definitely a lot of people that tend to come that are, not the biggest hikers, and it's awesome. I get it. Grand Canyon is absolutely beautiful, especially when you're going down. You're like, what is around that next bend? It is just spectacular. Oh my God, this is awesome. And I get that, but just be careful because then you have to turn around and climb all the way out of the damn big ditch, and it is a big, deep ditch. So anyway, the Grand Canyon, the Colorado River is kind of what flows at the bottom. Is a large, the mighty, beautiful Colorado, and it's cut through so many different rock layers. It is just spectacular. River rafting is also incredible. You can pay and go on like a commercial trip. It's quite expensive though. I think it's like $3,000 to $7,000 depending on how long you want to go for. So just keep that in mind. If you do decide to go for it, man, I would encourage you to just go for the whole thing. Like you can do, there's really only one place where people can go in and out. The raft itself, you actually have to go all the way from Lee's Ferry. It's like over 200 river miles before there's a takeout point for the raft. But there is a point, you can get off at Phantom Ranch and climb up the Bright Angel Trail or the South Kaibab Trail to or you could like go down and start kind of people leave halfway or go down. I mean, I say halfway, it's not really halfway, but approximately. But I wouldn't really recommend that. If you're going to go for it, go all the way. So some other things I'd recommend, would be if you want to really get below the rim a little bit, maybe go to Ooh Ah Point on the South Kaibab Trail. Absolutely spectacular. It's about 2 miles round trip. The view is just stunning. And it's about as good a hike as you can imagine. Excuse me. Also, the Bright Angel Trail, maybe consider just going to the 1.5 mile rest house. Be very cautious about water, too. I mean, sometimes there's water on the Bright Angel Trail, but it also is just as likely to be off any time of year, so make sure to consult a ranger before you go. A lot of people might depend on that water, and then it might be off. There's, as I was talking about, kind of alluded to a little bit, there are several Native American tribes that call the Grand Canyon home or have significant kind of spiritual significance. So shout out to the Havasupai, Hopi, Hualapai, Navajo, and others that have lived in this region. Absolutely beautiful place. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Something else, like I was talking about how the Grand Canyon is so remote, and one of the things about that is it's amazing for stars. Like they do at I think it's end of May or maybe the first week of June, they have a stargazing party. I went this year, it was spectacular. There was one gentleman had this demonstration about how big the universe was, and he had this kind of software that showed it, and it was just incredible. But the night sky at the Grand Canyon is fantastic. If you don't exhaust yourself hiking, I'd really encourage you to stay up and try to enjoy the stars a little bit. It is just spectacular. So much so that, it has a stargazing festival once a year, so consider that. So some of the rocks at the bottom of Grand Canyon, they think might be up to 2 billion years old, which is kind of hard to fathom. It's interesting how our perspective on time, like we go through, I think the typical human life expectancy is somewhere around 80 years, maybe a little bit more than that. But to compare that to and how long a lifetime is versus the 2 billion-year-old rocks of the Grand Canyon. It's just, I don't know. I struggle to even comprehend that. Let me know if you can in the comments. I have no idea. Um, and then the first European kind of people to visit the Grand Canyon was kind of in the 1500s. So they kind of came. I always think about that walking on the rim because like even right here, like we're less than a mile to the rim. We're walking away from it, obviously back towards the car, but the whole area kind of surrounding the Grand Canyon is very like plateau, kind of flat. There's not much water, but it's also not like that extreme. There's not huge mountains blocking your way in the immediate vicinity. There's kind of just this kind of open forest and stuff like that. It's just, so you might be like, oh, this isn't too bad of terrain to come across. And then imagine just coming to the rim and then just being like, oh my God, like you're like, what are you going to do? It's like you're like, if I was in the 1800s or if a Native American exploring this area, I'd just be like, oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine how they felt. So I really like to think about that of just like, all right, we're just walking around and then you come to the Grand Canyon and be like, what do we do now? So something to think about. So, and one of the things to consider too that a lot of people don't think about is that it's actually 20 degrees, if not more, hotter at the bottom than it is at the top. So elevation has this weird thing, and it's the same, and that doesn't, for some reason, for a lot of people, it's not super intuitive. Like, for example, a mountain in Colorado, like a 14 or the summit of a mountain is almost always colder. I mean, yeah, it's windier too, but it's almost always colder. You lose about 3.5 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet of elevation gain. So if you're going up 4,000 feet, that might be up to 20 degrees colder. Given all other factors equal, probably be even colder than that on the top of a mountain because, the wind and whatnot. But it's also true in the Grand Canyon rather than when you're going down. So when you're going down, you're actually getting hotter, and it could be just in equilibrium, maybe 3.5 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet you go down. So again, that could be 20, 25 degrees. And it can be in the summer, it can be like 120 degrees at the Grand Canyon. And one of the interesting things is they actually get a lot of places that the Grand Canyon gets two high temperatures in the summer. There's the normal, like afternoon high temperature, and then there's another one around 9, 10 at night because the rocks have absorbed so much heat that they re-radiate it out, so it'll like get a tiny bit cooler, but then you'll have another super high temperature, which at like later at night, which is pretty insane. It's really hard to fathom. I have spent a lot of time at the bottom of the Grand Canyon even in summer, and I've experienced that, and it is just brutal trying to hike out. I mean, one time I was down there for 2 weeks straight. It was like 120 degrees, which is just nuts. All right, so now we're about to be back. So there's a guy here they were hanging out in their chairs or something, having some food or just chilling out. So we're about back, and the place where this, there's this kind of barred off gate blocking the road. That is where the hike starts and ends. And again, it is along a road, but absolutely spectacular. I hope you enjoyed the hike here with me. Next up, we are going to we're going to switch over to a vehicle and just show you where it is. So Shoshone Point recommended. All right, so this is right now leaving the South Rim entrance. So that's the South Rim entrance station, and I sped this up. I mean, that's real time. All right, so now we're going 8x. There is a intersection coming up on the left here, but you're going to keep going straight. So go straight, go straight. Definitely don't go this fast through the park. Obey the posted speed limits, please. Don't hurt any elk or anything like that. And and a lot of times people can be a little bit distracted, I think, in national parks. So definitely keep your wits about you. Plus, people are coming from all over the world to see this park. So we go in hyper speed. But even though I don't mind the hike, and talking through that and keeping that mellow, especially my hope is maybe people will exercise and just kind of have this as something to watch in front of their treadmill versus just staring into the abyss or watching the news or something, maybe a little bit more exciting. Or of course you can listen to my commentary. Okay, so now though we're coming up to the Desert View intersection, so we're going to take a right. So there's a stop sign intersection, there's a yield where we're going. So when you get here, you're going to take a right onto Desert View Drive. And then we're going to go back into hyper speed mode here for a second, I think. You're going to pass by on the left here is going to be the South Kaibab trailhead. Now, just keep in mind you can only take a bus down there. So even if you wanted to go to the side, I would recommend parking at the visitor center and then taking the bus. The buses are free and frequent. A lot of people do park kind of on the side of the road here. Just be careful, make sure you're all the way off the road and whatnot. So yeah, to the left there was the South Kaibab trailhead, which you cannot take cars down. So now we're going, and we're going to switch back out of hyper mode here in a second. So we do go quite a bit beyond it. You can see this mile marker here. So we kind of passed that, and then the Shoshone Point parking lot is going to be here on the left. Would love it if you left me a comment. If you have any questions or anything, please reach out. I do love the Grand Canyon. Spent so much time there. Absolutely love it. Love talking about it. So don't be shy. Would love it if you liked and subscribed to this video. And I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll just take a look at the parking lot to check out how many people are here. If you're still with me, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.